Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. We've been having a long week of debating, engaging, dialoguing about this very, very historical mission that all of us, this generation, has to make sure that people of African descent move forward in terms of the quality of their life, in terms of their contribution, in terms of ensuring that the inequality gap that is severe between us and many other people is closed, and that's our mandate. But before we start, I would like to hand over to the prayer team. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Good afternoon. I will be leading the prayer in 3 languages: Amharic, English, and then French. ያለፈው የአሁኑ እና የወደፊቱ አምላክ ሆይ ሁሉም ሰው ተከባብሮ አብሮ በማገልገልና ፍጥረትን አክብሮ የሚኖርበትን ዓለም አሳየን። God of the past, the present, and the future, show us a world where we can all live with dignity, solidarity in service to one another and creation. Dieu du passé, du présent et du futur, montre-nous un monde où tous peuvent vivre dans la dignité, la solidarité, au service des uns et des autres et de la création.
Great. We finished the prayers. Thank you very much again. It's always important to start with our prayers. So what we're going to be doing now is broadly, let me give a sense of the run sheet. We will be listening to different speakers, the 3 of them, and I will introduce each of the speakers. And then basically from there, making sure that after the speakers have spoken, we will break into groups and look at the outcomes of the program and of this whole conference, just to make sure that this conference does not end up as a talk shop, but it ends up with very clear outcomes. And we'll break into 3 groups. We'll be guided accordingly and with moderators to answer specific questions. Those specific questions are action orientated and are aimed at ensuring that when we leave this conference, there's action that starts from day 1. We cannot waste any further time. The history will judge us very harshly if we waste time. And thereafter, we will definitely come back and have a call to action. And that's broadly how it's going to run. Our first speaker, and they guide me here, Rekotso, is Nora Kami, here already. Rekotso Fetsi. I'm going to introduce, that's correct? Okay, good. Nora Kami, and I'm going to introduce her. Born in Jerusalem, 1947. Nora Asenia Kami is a Palestinian Christian who became a refugee in her own city, divided after the establishment of the Israel state from her late father, Noba Asenia, a genocide survivor of the Armenian massacres of 1915. And her Christian upbringing, she learned the value and sanctity of human life, and she grew up in the land termed holy, where conflict and strife have prevailed over the 6 decades of her life. Nora has served as a community builder in Palestine society in both professional and voluntary capacities, advocating for a just peace and empowering women and the community through skills development and spirituality. Her career has included leadership with YWCA of Palestine, Sabel Liberation Theology Center, and Kairos, Palestine. She travels extensively, speaking in church and political circles around the world about the urgency of ending the injustice in Palestine and Israel. Over to you, Nora. Thank you very much. Is Nora in a position to speak?
Yes. Can you
Go
hear
ahead.
me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Africa and African diaspora. I am truly humbled to be able to say a few words in this meaningful conference. Unfortunately, I was not aware of it, and it is only this morning that Reverend Munderis asked me to say a few words. I could not refuse to raise my voice with all of you, with all of us who have been oppressed, discriminated, and ill-treated, not only as human beings, but whose lands, nature, ecology, fauna and flora have been exploited and violated. As I was introduced, I come from a land that has known oppression, that continues to be oppressed unjustly, even this week. And I think maybe this is one of the reasons that Reverend Munder could not be with you, because very soon there will be a meeting with the 6 organizations that have been termed as terrorist and who are threatened. So I'm here instead, not as a politician, but a person of faith who has been in your country, who knows the similarities of exploiting the land and the people. And so here I am with little advice, but honest aspirations and outlook. I know what Africa has suffered. I know how we have been exploited in this part of the world. I know how human beings have destroyed the beautiful creation of God. How some of us, out of greed and power, we have thought we are better than others. Maybe because of our color, our creed, our gender, but it all amounts to knowing that none of us is vulnerable. We saw it during the past pandemic. Not rich countries, not poor countries, not the oppressed, not the oppressor. Why? Because we have all forgotten that wars, military and nuclear power, killing and destruction won't bring about what God intended in the creation of humanity. I know that many of us are not of the same faith, and yet we all hold on knowing that we are created equal by God. And so there is a little bit of that divine image in each of us that we have no right to destroy in anybody, in any country, not anywhere in the world. What can we do today? I love your theme today, reimagining. What are we going to imagine? Are we going to go back to what was existing pre-COVID, pre-20th century, pre-wars? Or is it that together we can envisage and look to a better future, to a future where we can all hold hands together and encourage each one in our just struggles, preferably non-violently. Even if international law allows us to take weapons as a last resort, isn't there another solution today? I'm going to be courageous and say, yes, there is a renewal of a paradigm, the logic of love. What is lacking today in our world is moral values, respect of each other, and definitely love. Without love, we cannot see a future where we shall all exist. We cannot see Africa with all its riches that have been exploited, not rising up again, not as an equal, but as a rightful partner in creating the world. We really need to look at this today. It is not too late to go forward. Who has destroyed the world except us human beings? Nothing that is happening was intended. Okay. God did not create Europe, Africa, Asia. We did it. We human beings did it. And we thought we were doing the right thing. We realize now that that concepts cannot work from now on. Yes, we cannot forget, but we can learn. And not forgetting does not mean that we want to revenge or to become more powerful than the other. The solution is simple but difficult. Love never fails. As a Christian, I can say that, but I know that my brothers, Jews, Muslims, and non-monotheistic people also think the same, that human beings have to live in dignity. Welcome to my world, Africa. Accept me as a person who is oppressed, as your sister, and let us all work together to see that we can transform this world into what it was intended in its creation. A place of harmony, a place where we can all be together and do the will of God if we believe in God, but to live according to human rights in love and in just peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What a powerful inspiration, Nora, for a person in the space where you are to talk about the logic of love. It's mind-boggling. It's really mind-boggling. And but you've inspired us, and we are truly in solidarity with what you are going through in Palestine. So thank you very much for responding to the call at such a short notice, and we are very grateful. We're going to move on now to the next speaker. The next speaker is a Congresswoman. Let me just make sure I've got all my bio. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. She is an influential, forceful voice in Washington. She is serving her 14th term as a member of the United States House of Representatives. She represents the 18th Congressional District of Texas, centered in Houston, which is the energy capital of the world. Having grown up in the energy space and work in that, I know Houston very well. Considered by many as a voice of reason, She's dedicated to upholding the constitutional rights of all people. She sits on 3 congressional committees, a senior member of the House of Committees on the Judiciary and Homeland Security, and appointed by the leadership as a member of the Crucial Budget Committee. In the previous Congress, she authored and introduced and saw passage of the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act. Additionally, she introduced several bills, including Juvenile Accountability Block Grant Reauthorization and Bullying Prevention and Intervention Act, the Federal Bureau Nonviolent Offender Relief Act, an amendment to the Commerce, Justice, and Science appropriations for fiscal year 2015, affirming the authority of the Attorney General to reduce prison overcrowding by developing, implementing lawful policies relating to requests to execute clemency from deserving petitioners. She is the past ranking member of the Homeland Security Subcommittee of the Maritime Border Security, wherein she co-authored HR 1417. She's delivered a number of laws and regulations. If I can go through all her CV, I will take her time. On that note, I would like to welcome Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Over to you.
Good morning. Thank you so very much. I hope you can see my dedication to participating this morning in the Africa and African diaspora. Outstanding opportunity to participate in a journey that is shared. I certainly enjoyed listening to the call for love. Thank you to Dr. Angelique Walker-Smith and Reverend Frank Chakani for the invitation. May I start by saying in Matthew 17:10, we can hear the words, move from here to there, and it will move and nothing will be impossible for you. I think that theme is a potent and relevant theme on the efforts that I have made to address the question of slavery in the United States. Slavery lasted longer, 246 years, than this country is old. 4 million Africans and their descendants were enslaved in the United States and colonies that became the United States from 1619 to 1865. The institution of slavery was constitutionally and statutorily sanctioned by the government of the United States from 1789 to 1865. We would consider slavery America's original sin, but it was also an economic engine that built the nation, created the transatlantic slave trade. We all know that the traders decided to give up on spices and gold, begin to use human beings, and created a permanent scar on the backs of so many Africans. HR 40 is an effort to address this question and to be able to heal and to explore the impact of those 246 years of slavery. There is a need for a new journey and one of love. There was a myth around the Civil War that after the Civil War, all discrimination would end. There was a good attempt to integrate the descendants of enslaved Africans into the idea of society. But in fact, something called Reconstruction failed after 12 years. And after that time, some 4,000 descendants of enslaved Africans were lynched. HR 40 is the commission to study and develop reparation proposals. And one would ask in 2021, what would be the need of that? The enormity of the disparities between African Americans and the rest of the country is evident. HR 40 tracks the commitment of General Sherman that wanted to distribute 40 acres and a mule to the freed slaves. It never happened. Of course, for 100 years into the 20th century, disparities continued. Does anyone realize that the NAACP opposed Social Security, for example, because 65% of the descendants of enslaved Africans were not eligible because they were farm workers and domestic workers? Do we realize that the continued redlining where housing could not be bought, or health disparities evidenced by the COVID-19, where the highest number of those who were sick and the highest number of those who were hospitalized, and tragically the highest number of those who died happen to be African Americans. We look to today's and this year where we find that the wealth difference in 1968, $6,000 for a family of four, middle-class family for African Americans, and $70,000 for a typical middle-class white family. This is both correctable by spirit and by intent. And so the reach across the boundaries of countries is for the understanding of the condition of the of those who live in the United States, who are descendants of enslaved Africans, to be able to address this question with us, to understand it, to reach across the boundaries as we understand and fight for those who are in various conditions themselves. I wanted to participate to at least raise the question of the legislation of HR 40, draw upon the international community's support. It is a commission to study slavery, to provide an apology, and to develop reparation proposals. There are over 300 organizations that are supporting. They've been working on this since 1989, when it was introduced formally by John Conyers, my predecessor. I'm delighted that he entrusted this to me. It came after the 1988 commitment and reparations to Japanese Americans who were unfairly interned in the 1940s. There is no reason for this legislation not to be passed on the floor of the House of the United States Congress or to be made as a commission by the President of the United States. So we look forward to continuing the shared journey with all of you. We could look forward to our story being told, that the story of perceived wealth in the United States of various stars and athletes and others is not the real in-depth story of the disparities that continue in wealth, in healthcare, in business, and of course, the issues of social justice. Let me conclude by simply saying, as we watch the trials and tribulations of the treatment of Black men at the hands of law enforcement, the roll call of George Floyd, Black woman Breonna Taylor, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, Ahmaud Arbery, and many others, we understand that it is time to come together and to make the impossible possible. And we hope that we have brought some attention to this important seismic legislation, hopefully to be supported by the United Nations, as it has been, and people around the world. HR 40, a commission to study slavery, apologize, and develop reparation proposals for the descendants of enslaved Africans, as has occurred in the Caribbean and South and Central America and around the world. Thank you for having me this morning. And as I said, the commitment is to even try to do this on a plane as it is about to take off. You are very important. I look forward to us collaborating in the future. Thank you so very much for your kindness.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. We are really honored to have you speaking to us in the plane. It just shows the level of commitment that you have. You could have easily said, look, I'm busy, I'm traveling, don't bother me now. But you took the challenge of speaking to the whole world in the plane. Hope you travel safely and making us with the challenge, leaving us with the challenge to continue the struggle, particularly of Black Lives Matter. Again, when we watch the George Floyd video, it just makes you feel extremely angry, upset, all sorts of emotions come through. But his death was not in vain, because it triggered a massive movement of which we are part. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's move on. I now want to introduce Archbishop Lawrence MacDonald. Archbishop was born in 1954. He's an Anglican Archbishop. Since 2007, he has served as the National Indigenous Anglican Bishop from 2019 for the Anglican Church of Canada. And as such, he's a pastoral oversight over all Indigenous Canadians Anglicans. He previously served in the Episcopal Church in the United States as a Bishop of Alaska and as Assistant Bishop of Navajoland Area Mission. MacDonald was consecrated as a bishop in 1997. He served as a Bishop of Alaska in the Episcopal Church in 2006. It was announced that he was been appointed Bishop of Navajoland Area Mission, and he was affirmed and appointed in that role. So thank you very much, Bishop. Archbishop, we truly appreciate your presence. Over to you.
True. Linden Way Maganag. There I am. Bizanzwen Kika, which Yabugawa, Bichi Manado. Linden Way Maganag. I repeat that. What I've said to all of you, that I wish you the peace of the great mystery, and that we are all relatives. I think that it is such an honor to be involved in this conversation, something that is very intimate and personal to me, but also I think very, very important to the future. The way that I addressed you is very significant, and not just honorific or a polite way to meet somebody. It is our practice to try to establish a relationship of kinship with people who are friends and allies. And I must acknowledge and give thanks that this has been particularly true in the North American context, the place that we indigenous peoples call Turtle Island. I think that I hope that as I speak, this will become more and more apparent. For me, this moment is important, as I mentioned. My life has been very touched by the shared oppression and the shared hope of indigenous people and people of the African diaspora, particularly in my context, what is known as the United States and Canada. I was a part of a large group of young people, mixed race, many indigenous, many white, many African American. We found our faith to be a saving thing for us. All of us came from homes that were quite broken. All of us had experienced the way of life of the streets, and many had experienced harsh discrimination based on race. We looked for churches or religions that would welcome and honor us, and everywhere we went, it was the same thing. We would be welcome if we became like the people who we were engaging with. The place where we found respite, welcome, and hope was in a National Baptist church in northern Minnesota, where I grew up. And there, the pastor, the Reverend Sylvester Witherspoon, welcomed us, despite the many people in that area who would have cautioned him not to. But he could see something. He could see something in terms of the kinship that we might have in hope, a kinship that would guide us in the way that we lived and the way that we related to each other and to creation. And this is why I am today a minister in the Anglican Church of Canada. That was not his church, but he guided me towards the ministry, something that I had never anticipated, and certainly anybody who had known me never anticipated. This kinship in oppression, this kinship in hope, has marked the relationship of Indigenous peoples and people of the African diaspora in Turtle Island. And more than any other kind of relationship, this has been fruitful and important. There has been a lot of intermarriage between people of the African diaspora and the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. And we have become relatives on many, many levels. I think that as we face the world today, as we face the challenges of the world today, this kinship of oppression, this kinship of hope is critical, not only to our relationship with each other, but our relationship to the planet and its future. As I have become aware of what you're doing, it is to me an echo of what I believe is the world to come. It is, I think, a powerful witness, a powerful statement of solidarity, and as I said, a kinship of hope. I am here today because I believe so deeply, so intimately, that it is important for that kinship of hope to be a part of our future, our common future. There is a Ojibwe word, bimadazuin, and it's roughly translated life. It's spelled B-I-M-A-D-I-Z or Z-I-W-I-N, bimadazuin. The root word is to walk. And Bimadazuin describes all of the things as ethics, theology, philosophy, our ecology, our relationship to the planet. All of these have moral significance, and all of them are based on this passion to become relatives with all that is, and especially with the humanity that we encounter in our walk. It is often said in my circles that we must walk together. Really, we must live together. And it is my hope that we will walk together, and we will walk together in the kinship of hope. I believe that in this kind of relationship, in this kind of life, that we will see the power of the world to come manifest in our presence by the Spirit of truth, and that will be a guiding light, not just for us, but for this planet, for all of humanity. So thank you so very much. Miigwech, Gina Nakaman, thank you so very much for letting me be a part of this great moment. And I close by saying, Giga Wabaman, Ninda Reimagining. What I'm saying is, I will see you again, my relatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Archbishop. What a powerful concept. Kingship of hope. It is a powerful concept. We earlier on had the logic of love in very difficult circumstances. So I think the combination of these two concepts, the logic of love and the kingship of hope, is probably my takeaway for this conference, so that we may go away knowing that this is what we're called to do in the next phase as people of African descent. Thank you very much. We truly appreciate your presence.